Buenos días, chicos. Solo nos quedan dos cosas para terminar todo lo que debíamos haber hecho durante el primer cuarto. We only have two more things left of the things that we should have covered during first quarter. And one is stem changing verbs. So I'm going to teach that to you today. And I think you'll do quite well, actually. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. Okay, so stem changing verbs. In present tense, these are not a difficult thing. There is a bit of memorization involved, but they're not a terribly difficult thing to learn. When we get into preterite tense, kids start getting freaked out, but I think that we've got enough tricks to simplify it that everybody does okay. Okay, so stem changing verbs, what are they? I think you already know at least one. Stem changing means that the stem of the verb changes. So, like jugar is a verb that you all know. Jugar is Jug. When you conjugate it, it becomes jue, Jueg, and then the ending. That is a stem changing verb. So, there are essentially three types of stem changers. They are E to IE, UE, or E to I. So the UE stem changers are a bit odd. They are either O to UE or the one that is the most common for kids to know, jugar, is really irregular because there aren't very many U to UE. It might be the only one. I always say it might be because who knows? Maybe I'm forgetting one or there's one I don't know, but it's going to be very rare in your learning. Okay, so in the present tense, they do not change in first and second person plural. So as you look at a verb box, that means first, second person plural. So sometimes we call these boot verbs. You may have learned whatever few you learned. I can't remember now if you learned any at all, but the reason we call them boot verbs is it looks like a boot, right? So this empty space over the front of your toe would be these. They're not within the boot. You don't change them. So this particular verb is dormir. It's O to UE. So you see a UE, 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 O. It's outside of the boot. O, outside of the boot. UE, back in the boot. So everything here in the shaded area is part of the stem changing verb. Okay, let's see what else we're going to say about 4 different types. We have E to IE stem changers. We have E to I stem changers. We have O to UE and U to UE, which is that fourth one is so rare, but ironically, the most rare stem changer is probably the most common stem change verb. In our classes anyway, we do a lot of playing sports, play this, play that, and it's easy to incorporate into a sentence. So let's look first at E to IE stem changers and how we conjugate them. This is by far the most common form of stem changing verb. So we're going to look at querer. Querer is an irregular verb. It's categorized as irregular in just about every tense under the sun. However, in the present tense, it really is a simple E to IE stem changer. It's not irregular. When you first learn it, you're like, oh, it seems irregular to me. Why does it have so many vowels? Well, it's not actually an irregularity. It's a stem changer. So it's a change. And the difference between irregular and change, sometimes we have spell changing verbs. So whenever there's a change from the regular pattern of just taking your infinitive, dropping the ending, putting the conjugated ending back on, that's considered a change, or that's a change. If it's an irregularity, then it doesn't change, it doesn't follow the predicted endings. Like a star becomes a stoy. What the heck is that? Oh, y is not part of conjugation, is it? No, it's only in irregulars. Same with soy. So those are irregularities. Okay. So querer, to want. So if you conjugate it, you're going to take the ER off like you always would. We're not changing the process of conjugating. Stem changers never ever change in nosotros, vosotros. They're called boot verbs for a reason. They don't change outside of the boot. So far we have yo quiero. So here is the E that's going to change. Obviously, it can't be this one because that's the ending of the verb. So it's the middle, this first one then. So this E, when you conjugate, is going to become an IE. So you keep the U at an IE, quiero. Tú quieres. Repiten, quiero, quieres, quiere. Outside of the boot now. Queremos, back to regular. Vosotros queréis. Quieren, back into the boot. So the last one is going to stem change. Q-U-I-E-R-E-N. Here they are. You have the whole list. You'll be able to reference that. You can print it if you've got a printer at home. You can maybe I'll go back and put all these handouts in materials so you can easily get back to them without having to sift through all of the assignments. So if you can't print, then you can at least go back to them and do dual screen. Go to Tech Tips. I show you how to do a split screen. So that you could see two things at once. I do it a lot for grading. I do a lot all the time since I always have so many windows open. So these are all of the verbs that change E to IE. So let's look at where they must change. Acertar, obviously the E changes. This one, same thing. There's only one E and that's what makes the change. Same, same, same. What about here? It's never the if the verb, whoops, if it's more than two syllables, it won't be the first vowel that changes. So even though there are two E's, defender, you can't say, you don't put the change in the first E. It would be defendo. That would be weird. So lots of times in Spanish, if you try to say a word, you're unsure about whether or not you conjugated it right, try to say it. And if it's really hard to say, you're probably not right. So moving on, and okay, these are obviously the first E doesn't change. Fregar, herir, recomendar. Again, there are two E's. So how do you know? The first syllable doesn't change. If it's two or more, it's going to be either the second to the last or the middle vowel that changes. Simple, simple. Do we see anyone? Descender. It will be the second one. Desciendo. Enciendo. Entiendo. Referir. Refiero. Second one. Okay. So these are IE verbs. So if we're going to conjugate them in the yo form, how about pensar? Pensar. Pienso. Sentir. I think this is the direction they go with the animations. Siento. Mentir. Miento. Convertir. Convierto. Empezar. Empiezo. Entender. Yo form. We're doing all yo form. If you can do yo form, you can do all the rest of them. Entiendo. Preferir. Prefiero. Querer. Quiero. Encender. Enciendo. Perder. Pierdo. Bien. Whoops, I didn't give you even a second to do that, did I? Comienzo. I begin. Cerrar. Cierro. That's from say hola. Cierra la puerta. Close the door. Confesar. Confieso. Despertarse. So that's weird. Whenever you look up a word and you find a say at the end, for now, just take the say off, disregard it completely, which technically is not right. But if you take Spanish 3, we'll show you what to do with the SE at the end. Despierto. Me despierto is what you would do. Defender. Defiendo. Negar, to deny. It looks like to negate, to deny. Niego. Okay, so now we're looking at O to UE verbs. So the O in the infinitive dormir, which you've all seen. Dormir means to sleep. The O is going to change to a UE only within the boot. So don't get so obsessed with the UE change that you're doing it in all 6 of them, because that's not right. So what you're going to do is obviously cross the IR off. Everybody knows how to conjugate. So you're going to drop the last 2 letters, and then those will have conjugated endings like normal. Nothing changes there. When you do the conjugations, however, your stem is going to change. So that O will become a UE in the boot. Actually, is it this way for you guys? Am I mirrored? So don't do nosotros, vosotros. It'll look like this. Duermo, duermes, duerme. Dormimos, dormís, duermen. I sleep, you sleep, he sleeps, sleeps, she sleeps, you formal sleep. Dormimos, dormís, duermen, they sleep. Here's a list of all of your O to UE verbs. Again, sometimes in class we go through and repeat all of those, but that would make this a pretty annoying video if we do too much of that. So why don't we shorten it? Maybe I'll have you repeat more when we Zoom. I don't know. We don't have a ton of time to do that. Okay, practicamos con O to UE. Mostrar, to show. I show. Muestro. Poder, I can. You know this, it's an irregular verb, puedo. So this falls into the same sort of category as querer. We call it irregular because it is irregular in most tenses, but very technically it's a stem changer in the present tense. Morir, to die. Muero. You can use morir figuratively, like, oh my gosh, I just died. Maybe you died laughing or died of embarrassment. It doesn't have to be you actually, like, your heart stopped beating kind of die. Jugar, we've done this one. Juego, acostarse. So disregard the say. I go to bed. Acuesto, me acuesto. I sleep was our first example. Duermo. I cost. Don't put a price on yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just do third person there. So, cuesto, no. Cuestas, cuesta. It costs. Cuesto, I don't like that. Cuesta. Recordar, to remember. Recuerdo. I fly. Vuelo. Come on there. Whoops. Volver is to turn or to return. Vuelo. That's a weird spell changer. Holy text messages I'm getting on my new Apple Watch for my anniversary. Contar, to count. Cuento. Almorzar, to have lunch. Almuerzo. Servir is to serve, and it's an E to I stem changer. So that means the E in the stem is going to change to an I. So how do you do it? You conjugate the ending like you always do. Cross off the IR and change the stem according to the rule. Nosotros and vosotros still don't change. It's only in the boot. So servir, sirvo, sirve, sirve, servimos, servis, sirven. IR verbs are almost exclusively E to I, or I'm sorry, E to I verbs are almost exclusively IR ending verbs. So sirvo, sirve, sirve, servimos, servis, sirven, and it means just exactly what it looks like to serve. Here's another list of all, well, not all, but a pretty good list of your E to I changers. Okay, I serve. Sirvo, I repeat. Repito, I ask for. Pido, you can also use this verb for like to order in a restaurant. I follow. Sigo. In first person, the U falls away because you don't need it phonetically. Vestir to dress. I dress. Visto. I compete. Compito. Uh-huh. That's it. Those are the rules. You're not Spanish 3, so we don't go any further with this. Um, so for your stem changing homework today, I didn't originally, oh, I lost my face there. I didn't originally have the type of spell change of stem change for each verb, but I gave it to you since you're online and it's really hard to toggle between a resource sheet and homework sheet. So that should really make it easier for you. Okay, that's all I have for you. Do your worksheet. We'll go over it together tomorrow on Zoom, depending on your hour. Hasta luego, mis chicos.